It is the solar eclipse in Leo, and things are about to get hot, hot, hot. I'm Megan Maris, and this is your energy update for the week of August 12th through August 27th. We have a huge solar eclipse that is happening in Leo on the very last day of the Lionsgate portal. So we are going from one portal to another straight into the eclipse portal. We're going to have this solar eclipse, and then on the 28th, we're having a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. So we are having a south node eclipse, and solar eclipses are always about the south. This one is a total solar eclipse, which means there's going to be a moment where the sun is covered in complete darkness. So we can see this as a cosmic reset. We go into eclipse season every 6 months, and it's always a time where certain things get eclipsed out and new things come in. So it's a closing of a chapter. And unlike a regular new moon, whose energy is active for the whole lunar cycle, which is generally about 28 days, a solar eclipse is active for 6 months. So whatever is activated in this portal, we're going to see the residual effects over the next 6 months. So let's talk about what eclipses are. A solar eclipse is when the moon passes directly in front of the sun and it blocks it for a moment, creating this period or this momentary darkness. And we think of the moon as our emotions, the unconscious, and the sun is our will and it's how we shine. And then once we start that eclipse portal for the whole lunar cycle, we are in sort of like this underworld. We're activated by the solar eclipse where something about ourself is highlighted. And then as we go into the lunar eclipse 2 weeks later, it becomes about relationships. And then the 2 weeks following that, we're starting to integrate and understand and close out that cycle, which then ends on the 9/9 portal with the next new moon. So not only is this a powerful time of endings and beginnings, but it's in the sign of Leo, which is all about shining. It's about creativity. It's about courage. It's also the feast day of Sekhmet. So we're going to talk about the mythology of Sekhmet and how it connects to this moon. But first, I want to talk about some of the interesting transits that are happening at the same time. We have Mercury that is in the sign of Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius, and we also have Venus in Libra opposing Neptune in Aries. So we have two very powerful oppositions on top of the powerful energy of this eclipse. So if you've been feeling tired, if you've been feeling drained, it's no wonder. We are so activated right now. We're literally in this pressure cooker. Mercury opposing Pluto can create intrusive thoughts. It can create power struggles. It can create manipulation. So if we're looking at the shadow side of Leo, which can boil down sometimes even into narcissism, and we can see that with the collective leaders on the planet right now, there is this fight for power right now, and it is coming at the cost of unity. That's why Pluto in Aquarius is bringing out this energy of the rebel and the humanitarian and the visionary to call out this old regime of authoritative patriarchal rule that is not serving this planet anymore. So collectively, we're going to see a lot of shifts when it comes to who's in the public eye and how they're being perceived. But I like to point it back to what's happening in our individual lives. With Mercury opposing Pluto, there might be a lot of stuff that you have to look at, old limiting beliefs or conflicts that you're having with people in this power struggle where certain people that may have held a place of power in your life are fighting to keep that power. Now, Venus opposing Neptune is a very different energy. It can create delusion, confusion, and deception. It's kind of like putting someone on a pedestal and really seeing this idealized version of them versus how they actually are. So maybe you're seeing somebody's highest potential and then you're let down because they're not in that space just yet. So I feel like whatever is highlighted in this solar eclipse is going to give us a taste of the relationships that might start to be eclipsed out in the lunar eclipse portal that's happening in just a few weeks from now. Because this is a south node eclipse, it's the energy that we're moving away from. So collectively, we're moving away from the energy of Leo into the energy of Aquarius. But at the same time, we have Jupiter in Aquarius that's expanding all of this. So it's like expanding the shadow side of Leo. But that doesn't mean that we can't absolutely embrace the amazing qualities of Leo. With Mercury in Leo and the sun in Leo and Jupiter in Leo, we can expand our leadership abilities. We can expand our courage, our creativity, our ability to stand strong in setting an example of what it feels like to walk courageously and boldly and bravely. The beautiful side of Leo is showing people that it's safe to shine and inviting others onto this stage to celebrate and create and shine with you. And that's sort of how we bridge the energies of Leo and Aquarius, where Leo is how you shine individually. And once you find your spark, then your spark contributes to this collective fire that is blazing across the planet and alchemizing all of the negative energies that are out there. Because it's a South Node eclipse, it also means that it's going to highlight our past. So we just went through Mercury retrograde, and then we went to the Lionsgate portal, and it was like this moment of activation. And now it's like we're revisiting what old self are we moving away from. So before we create these powerful new beginnings, it may be time to figure out who you are now, this version of you. The shadow side of Leo can also show up in needing external validation or in people pleasing to some degree, because the Leo performer needs the audience. Where in your life are you doing things for approval or validation or dopamine hits, when in reality, you need to come back to yourself, find that radiance within, and let that radiance lead you to how your gifts can contribute to this collective energy. Now let's talk about the energy of Sekhmet, because it's so powerful. So August 12th not only is the ending and the closing of the Lionsgate portal, which began on July 26th. And if you want to dive deeper into understanding the Lionsgate portal and the Galactic New Year, which this year's theme is the red galactic moon, you can find that link in description to my two-part ceremonies for the Galactic New Year and Lionsgate portal with Isis and Sekhmet. But I want to talk about another story that has to do with Sekhmet, because it's very interesting. Sekhmet's feast day is on August 12th, and this is what is coined the repulsion of Set. Now, we know that Set is Isis's brother in mythology, and he is the one that kills Osiris, and then she has to rescue and put together all 14 pieces of him, and then creates this golden phallus, which then allows her to become impregnated with their son Horus, who really is overcoming this toxic masculine that Set represents. But then, of course, Osiris becomes the ruler of the underworld, where Isis is the ruler of heaven and earth. And so there's this separation between the two. And Sekhmet is this powerful goddess that was created by Ra. She was created from the hot desert sun to bring the law of Ma'at, which is order, back to this planet. In the story of the repulsion of Set, we are told about the sun god Ra, who takes this solar barge every day, rising with the sun from the east, setting in the west, and then at night going down into the underworld and starting again. So it represents the daily journey of the sun. Now, in this story, Set represents the storms. And so he rides on this barge with Ra, and he creates the storms and he creates some of the weather patterns. But what happens is his chaos energy and his need for control start to get out of hand. But because Ra just represents the light, he needed some reinforcements. So he calls on his daughter Sekhmet to bring in that reinforcement. And Sekhmet basically takes Set and banishes him into the wilderness so that he can no longer bring that chaos and destruction and need for control and validation and manipulation and narcissism. We can add all of these other words. That whole chaos mess can no longer upset the order of Ma'at, which is the order of justice. It's the order of structure that creates the foundation for civilization to continue. So Sekhmet is this fierce protectress that, through her dark feminine power and her sacred rage, destroys and overcomes the toxic masculine energy. So it's so powerful that her feast day, where this story is actually coming into fruition in the solar eclipse in Leo, the solar eclipse represents Ra, and the Mercury opposing Pluto represents the energy of his power and control and manipulation. And the Venus square Neptune represents the delusion and the illusion that he tries to place under to take control. And Sekhmet comes through as this Leo energy that takes control of her life and brings back order. She doesn't do it nicely. She does it through her sacred rage and anger. And we have been socialized as women to diminish that part of ourselves and to play the role of the people pleaser or the docile feminine. And Sekhmet is coming in and saying, whatever needs to be destroyed, we have that power now. So I encourage you to think about, where is the disorder? Where is the chaos in your life? Maybe it's from a person or a relationship dynamic. Maybe it's from a place of lack or scarcity or a belief pattern that's no longer serving you. This is a moment where we can call on the energy of Sekhmet, and the energy of Ra can bring in this solar eclipse light, this huge light on whatever is creating that disorder in our life, so that we can bring back order into our lives, which then brings order back to all beings. It's really interesting how all of this stuff coincides. Eclipses are very disruptive. They're meant to disrupt what is no longer serving us. So it's important that you focus on self-care, that you're taking care of your body, that you're hydrating yourself, that you're eating good food, that you're practicing self-care, and listen to your body. If you feel more fatigued than usual, allow yourself to rest, because a lot of these integrations and activations often come through rest. So I'm going to be pulling a few cards to give us a better idea of how to work with this energy. But first, I wanted to talk about some of the other changes in the planet. So we just had Mars move into the sign of Cancer. And so Mars in Cancer can sometimes feel like passive aggressive, and it's action based on emotion. So because we have such a pivotal energy of stepping into our leadership, but also kind of highlighting this space of power and control issues, we need to really make sure that our emotions are regulated and we're not just reacting, that instead we're practicing what we talk about in mermaid consciousness, non-reaction. It's a space of responding versus reacting to the situations in our life. So if you notice that something happens and automatically you go into this place of dysregulation and you immediately respond from that overstimulation, you will consciously or unconsciously be contributing to that disorder and chaos. This is a time of self-mastery where you're being asked to pause, to breathe, and to continue with your self-care practices, to take excellent care of yourself so that when those issues arise of conflict or chaos, you can respond. You can show up with grace and diplomacy. Again, with Venus opposing Neptune, Venus is in Libra, so it's all about diplomacy. It's all about partnership. But then we have Neptune in Aries, and Neptune in Aries is kind of like delusion around having to be first or competing. But it's almost like we're competing against things that would actually bring harmony and balance. So it's like this illusion that causes us to fight against what's actually good for us. And so we may see that in our relationships where these power dynamics are coming from somebody's wounding and they're not from actually what's happening now. It's also interesting that Venus is going to be squaring Mars very soon. It already squared Mars when it was in Leo, and Mars was in Taurus. And now that Venus is in Libra, it's going to be squaring Mars in Cancer. And then we're going to be moving into a Venus retrograde. So Venus and Mars, the masculine and feminine energy, are really at a time of odds and challenge and conflict. And so we can start by beginning to reconcile our own masculine and feminine energies within, and ask yourself, like, where am I leaning too much on being in this space of action? And maybe the action is coming from stress or reaction or like emotional intensity. And where am I in a place of needing to be in flow more? Or where do I need to create more of that structure so that I can flow, but I can flow with a plan and a purpose and a goal? So that's something that we can look at. And I would encourage you to know that in eclipses, it's not necessarily suggested to have an intention. There's so much upheaval, like there's so much uncertainty, there's so much that we don't see, that we may be asking for something that actually is not even the best possible outcome. I would encourage you to, rather than think of a specific intention for this solar eclipse, to think about how you want to feel and how other people have made you feel and where you want to go now. So again, there's going to be this evaluation of the people and the situations and everything in your life. And if it's not a match to you being your true authentic self, this is where you've got to start making those choices of release, because when we get into the lunar eclipse, whatever we haven't willingly released, the universe may step in and start to do it for us. And that will create more disruption than if we're on board with being open or at least willing to release what no longer serves us. I had a friend that shared that she's saying this prayer, and it's something along the lines of, help me to let go of the desire of anything that is not good for me. And I feel like that's a great space to move towards. How can we let go of desiring what's no longer good for us? So the mermaid empowerment for the solar eclipse in Leo is worthiness. And the mermaid empowerment is, I'm worthy and deserving of my dreams. Now, this worthiness card is this beautiful mermaid that's sitting on a pearl, and the planet Venus is in back of her. And so it really represents stepping into our beautiful feminine energy and recognizing that we are the goddess in form. And the mermaid itself represents our thought work with the mind and the human part of the mermaid. That could also be our masculine energy. And then the fish aspect of the mermaid is our nervous system regulation. It's our emotions, it's our intuition, it's our psychic gifts and ability, and it is our feminine energy. When we work with the mermaid, we are learning how to master our mindset and our thought work and learning how to regulate our nervous system through self-care. And then as we do that in mermaid consciousness, we can then step into beauty, bliss, and sovereign sensuality. And we do that through the three pillars of self-love, self-forgiveness, and self-mastery. So I'll be sharing more about mermaid consciousness in the days and weeks to come. But this card, worthiness, is saying that we are worthy to step into the space of shining. But first, we have to let go of all of the things that have kept us in a space of dimming our light. We've got to be really honest with ourselves and really compassionate with ourselves at the same time. So I'm going to be pulling from the tarot as well as the Isis Oracle to get some additional messages for this moon. The first card that I have is the Six of Cups. And I love this, especially this particular deck. I love how it shows like this woman, and it looks like she's either giving a cup to her child, or this could even represent an inner child. The Six of Cups often represents nostalgia. It represents soulmates. It's like this beautiful energy of just wanting to enjoy and give our love. I feel like the Six of Cups in the solar eclipse, because Leo also rules the fifth house in astrology, which represents children and our inner child. I feel like this is a resurgence of leaning into what our inner child wanted. What did you like to do as a kid? I would put on little performances for my family, and I would sing or do different things. And I noticed my daughter does the same thing. And that's a very Leo quality, like wanting to perform. Think about what your inner child loved to do, because whatever you loved as a child is also a clue to a part of your mission or your purpose now. And it's also saying that you're worthy. So maybe you had a dream in your heart as a child, and then as you got older, you heard that, oh, it's not practical, or that's not the best idea. You've got to do something safe, and it's not safe to follow the dream in your heart. But we also have this Judgment card, which is saying that there's going to be some sort of like epiphany. Like you're going to realize like, wow, this is what's been holding me back from stepping into what my inner child wants, that dream that they have given me, and that I'm so worthy and deserving of calling forth. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles. So this is also a sign of patience, where everything is sort of being sorted out. So between now and this next lunar cycle, we've got to be patient. You know, if we're trying to start something in the middle of the portal, when this is a South Node eclipse and we're being asked to go back, then, you know, maybe we're going to feel a little bit impatient. That could also be a shadow energy of Leo. And then the Seven of Pentacles is also looking at your investment and thinking like, okay, is the time and the energy that I put into a person or a situation or an experience yielding the value that I want? So again, worthiness is about valuing ourselves. And when we value ourselves, we also have to value our time and investment in other other people and things. So this is kind of doing an evaluation of what's real. You know, for example, if you've been putting a lot of time and energy into a person and they're not offering you that reciprocal energy, this could be a moment where you have to consciously choose to let that go. We also have the King of Cups. So I love this with Mars in Cancer, because it's saying that, like, when we work from a space of an open heart rather than emotional reactivity, we can be guided into right action. But the difference is, like, the shadow side of the emotional reactivity is guided as a reaction rather than guided as our heart leading the way. So I feel like the King of Cups is saying, let your heart lead the way. Lastly, from the tarot, we have the Hangman. So again, this is a time where we have to surrender what we think is the right step or what we think is the right path, and just say, like, I'm willing to see things differently. Like, universe, show me what's real, what's true, what is going to be in the highest divine alignment for myself and for all beings. So now I'm going to pull from the Isis deck and see if we can get any additional wisdom from powerful goddess Isis. We have the Pyramid of Light. So again, eclipse portals, the veils are very, very thin. So it's important that you're doing your energy protection. You can imagine that there's a pyramid of light around you. You can imagine there's a pillar of light. Whatever your specific energy protection and practice is unique to you. But this is saying, make sure that you're really focusing on your energy hygiene. You can also have a talisman, which is a necklace or a ring or some type of crystal that you encode as protection over your body and your energy field. So I have my Ankh here, and I also have my eye makeup that ancient Egyptians used as energy protection. So you can use your makeup, you can use your jewelry, all sorts of ways. And that's sort of like a Venus and Libra way to, like, energetically bring style and beauty into your energetic practices. We also have the Serpent of Fire. And it says priestess of the serpent sisterhood. So snake energy is all about transformation. So snake medicine is learning how to swallow and alchemize the poison. So we're going into this first protecting ourselves, but also recognizing that we're protecting ourselves so that we can be full and whole, not out of fear. And then from that place of fullness and wholeness, we're stepping into this practice of alchemy, transforming the poison, all of the negative energy out there, and learning how to wield it into prosperity and abundance and success. I'm going to pull one more card from this deck, and we have the Key of Life, the Ankh. It says spinning the Ankh, the key of life. So the Ankh is a powerful symbol of life. It's also a symbol of protection, and you can use it in manifestation. So calling on the energy of the Ankh would be a great way to not only energetically support yourself, but call in these powerful new beginnings. So if you want to dive deeper into how this solar eclipse will affect you, you can book an astrology reading or an intuitive card reading or a galactic channeled reading. And you can also get the replay from my Lionsgate and Galactic New Year ceremonies below. These are timeless ceremonies. So even if we are no longer in the Lionsgate portal, they're still very powerful and will give you whatever transformation that your soul needs in this moment. And if you're not sure what offering is best for you, you can always book a free exploratory call at meganmermaid.com. And make sure that you're following me here on YouTube as well as on Instagram, where I post daily card readings and inspiration from the Mermaid Empowerment Oracle deck. I love you so much. See you on the other side of the eclipse portal. Have a great day.